Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into something really crucial for anyone in major construction projects, FIDIC Clause 14.1, which is all about the contract price. This idea of a price gatekeeper is absolutely key. See, your project's price, it's not just some static number you agree on day one. Nope, it's a living, breathing system with really strict rules. And you can think of Clause 14.1 as the official rule book for that system.
And this really visualizes the core concept perfectly, right? Imagine your contract price is this big container of water. It starts off filled to the brim. That's your lump sum price. Now the contract has these very specific taps on the side. Only certain things, like a variation or a change in law, let you open a tap and add more water, or sometimes drain a little out. But here's the kicker. By default, that container is sealed absolutely tight.
Okay, so let's get practical. How does this clause actually work? Well, we can break it down into 5 golden rules. These are the fundamental jobs that 14.1 does, and what's great is they're pretty much consistent, whether you're looking at the old 1999 red and yellow books or the newer 2017 editions.
So here they are, the 5 core functions. First up, it locks in that lump sum default. Then, it decides who's carrying the risk on taxes. Third, it tells you what to think about the quantities you see in schedules. Fourth, it puts limits on how you can even use those schedules. And finally, number 5, it gives you a sort of gateway if you want some parts of the job to be measured. Don't worry, we're going to unpack every single one of these.
Okay, Rule 1. Now, what's really interesting here is the subtle but important change in the 2017 update. Look, both versions start with the same idea. It's a lump sum. But the 2017 edition, it basically makes the financial plumbing way more transparent. It spells it out. When other clauses say the contractor gets cost or cost plus profit, that money flows directly into the contract price. So there's no more arguing about whether a claim payment is some kind of separate, off-the-books amount. It's all part of the same pot.
All right, let's talk tax risk. The default rule is super simple. The contractor is expected to have priced in all the taxes that exist when they sign. The only way that changes is if the law changes after the contract is signed. And the 2017 edition makes it even slicker by creating what you could call a two-way valve. If a new law makes the contractor's costs go up, the price goes up. But, and this is the fair part, if a law changes and actually reduces the contractor's costs, the employer gets to see that saving. It just makes the whole risk allocation more balanced.
Now this next one, this is a big one. It trips up so many people. You open up the tender documents, you see a schedule, and it says, 10,000 meters of cable. You have to understand that is not a promise from the employer. It's just an estimate to help you price the job. If you end up needing 12,000 meters because of how your design shakes out, well, that's on you. That's your risk. FIDIC is basically shouting at you from the page, this is not a remeasurement contract.
And this builds right on that last point. The crucial thing to get is, if a schedule of rates is included for, say, valuing variations, then that is its only job. You can't just grab those rates and try to argue that the whole project should be remeasured now, or use them to price a completely unrelated claim. Think of it like this. The contract puts these schedules in a box with a very clear label on it. It stops anyone from trying to use them as a backdoor to change the whole deal from lump sum to something else.
So after all these strict rules, FIDIC does give you a kind of escape hatch. Let's say there are some really high-risk items. Think rock excavation, where you just don't know the quantity. You can decide you want to pay for that per cubic meter, instead of guessing a lump sum. You totally can. But, and it's a big but, you have to build this little measurement island yourself, right there in your project-specific particular conditions. And the 2017 version makes you build it even stronger, saying you have to define not just how to measure it, but exactly how you're going to price it. It just closes loopholes and leaves way less room for arguments down the road.
Okay, so that's the theory. But we all know theory is one thing. What happens when these rules hit the messy reality of a live construction site? Let's put them to the test. We're going to run through a few common scenarios you'll almost certainly face.
Right, scenario 1. Picture this. You are halfway through the job. Everything's going okay. Then, boom, the government announces a brand new VAT on some key imported equipment you need. Suddenly, your supplier's invoice is 12% higher. So who pays? Is that your problem, or can you pass that cost on to the employer?
Well, the contract gives you a super clear path here. Remember Rule 2 we just talked about? It says normal tax is your risk, except for changes in the law. And this new VAT, it's a textbook change in law. So you follow the proper claims procedure, and you are absolutely entitled to have that extra cost added to the contract price. That container of money we talked about, it just got a little top up. All right, scenario 2. This is that classic quantity problem. The tender schedule said 10,000 meters of cable, but now you're looking at your as-built drawings and you've actually installed 13,000. I mean, that's a huge difference. So the big question is, do you automatically get paid for that extra 3,000 meters?
And the answer, if we're reading the FIDIC contract strictly, is probably not. It goes right back to rule number 3. Those quantities in the schedule, they were just an estimate. Now, if the employer gave you a formal variation that changed the cable routes and caused you to use more, that's a different story. But if not, that 30% overrun is just part of your lump sum risk. The contract assumes you did your own homework and your own quantity takeoff when you priced the job.
Oh man, this next one. This has been a really painful one for a lot of folks recently. You've signed the contract, you're all set to go, and then suddenly, because of crazy global market shifts, the price of structural steel just goes through the roof, a 40% spike. And your contract, it doesn't have a price adjustment or an indexation clause. So who eats that cost? Yeah, this is a tough one, but the rule is crystal clear. FIDIC has this optional tool for price indexation, but it only works if you actually choose to put it in the contract from the start. You have to include the tables and the formulas. If you don't opt in, the contract's position is that you accepted this risk. It assumes you price the possibility of inflation right into your lump sum. There is simply no safety net for that kind of commercial risk if you didn't build one yourself.
So let's just quickly recap our little stress tests. A brand new tax? Yep, that's a change in law, so you get a price adjustment. A big quantity overrun? Nope, that's contractor risk, no adjustment. What about wild market inflation? Again, without that specific opt-in clause, that risk stays firmly with the contractor. You can really see how clause 14.1 is that gatekeeper, right? It stands there and decides which events get to open the money tab and which ones don't.
So when you step back and look at the big picture, what's the deal with the changes between the 99 and the 2017 versions? I mean, the core philosophy is basically the same, but the upgrades in the 2017 edition, they really matter when it comes to the day-to-day running of a contract.
And honestly, this quote just nails it. It's not a revolution, it's a refinement. The 2017 FIDIC books are all about improving the clarity and the procedures. Think of it like this. It's tightening up all the financial plumbing to make sure every single adjustment, whether it's from a variation or a claim, has a clear, defined pipe that leads straight back to the main contract price. It's all about getting rid of ambiguity.
And really, all these key upgrades are aimed at one thing, creating more certainty. The 2017 version makes that explicit link for costs so claims become more predictable. It brings in that fairer two-way street for tax changes, and it forces you to have clearer rules for any measured work you include. The whole goal is to shrink those messy gray areas and just make the financial outcomes more certain for everybody involved.
Okay, we've gone through a lot of detail. So if you're going to remember just one single thing from this whole explainer about FIDIC Clause 14.1, what should it be?
It's this. The FIDIC contract, out of the box, is a lump sum deal where the contractor is carrying the risk on quantities and on market costs. That's the default setting. All the power to change that, to rebalance that risk, the power to add price indexation, to define measured items, to tweak the tax rules, all of it is in the custom drafting that you do in the particular conditions before anyone signs on the dotted line.
And that leaves us with the question that gets asked on pretty much every construction site every single day. When some unexpected cost pops up, you have to ask, does this cost sit inside our lump sum, or is it something we can legitimately push back as an adjustment to the contract price? And the good news is, thanks to the rules we've just unpacked in Clause 14.1, you're now way better equipped to find the right answer.